This Marion Michaud, that I presented wrongly as Madame DESIRA, but not at all. So Marion, please. I will truly say who you are. You're from DG INPA in Brussels, working in the unit that's louder, like this. Okay, working in the unit that actually follows DESIRA, but not only. And you will be talking about the next round of projects for the region and also for Africa, if I understand. We have online, we have Marco. Marco, buongiorno. From Italy, we already have buongiorno. And I would also have to like to call Katia. This Katia, please.
It's her.
It's her. It's the new. Okay, Katia 1, Katia 2. So Katia 1, please.
Katia 1.
Okay, and then we will have a panel discussion in which I'll invite a few more people. So we start with this the information. We're going to explain a little bit what we are discussing here. Let me just put this down somewhere. And I'll give you a microphone. I'll give you this one.
Thank you. So I start. So I guess you have all received this two-page concept note that we have put together to set the scene for today's discussion about the new program for Africa and for Asia and Pacific that the EU and IFAD are currently developing based on their long-lasting cooperation on supporting farmer organizations worldwide. So as Marco said yesterday, we are building upon the results of the lessons learned and the result of several previous initiatives over the last 15 years, with a focus now on the so-called FO for ACP and FO for Asia programs that came to an end at the end of last year, if I'm not mistaken, after successful evaluation, the outcomes of which are also being taken into account to inform the design process. So we are not starting from scratch, but we are building upon quite a long-term engagement. So the EU has pulled together resources from several funding streams that will allow us to bring new prospects to the previous interventions with an explicit focus, as I was telling this morning, on research and innovation and on the development of value chain based on agroecological approaches and principles. Nevertheless, the program remains primarily a capacity development effort in support of farmer organizations. So this focus is based on the recognition that although small-scale farmers are at the center of agricultural production, they very often lack the resources, the productive assets, the infrastructure, and the support they need to access sustainable and profitable markets. That is where FOs and cooperatives come in as critical intermediaries that can play a key role in organizing and aggregating farmers, facilitating linkages with agribusinesses, both European and non-European, helping them negotiate better terms in contracts, higher prices for their products, and creating economies of scale that are essential for smallholder farmers' participation in value chains to be viable. So the new program will seek to strengthen the capacity of farmer organizations and cooperatives, including those led by or focused on women and youth, to provide their members with technical, economic, financial, and business development services, and to connect them with local agri-food SMEs and larger multinational companies through mechanisms that can be outgrower schemes or contract farming or others. So these arrangements will promote coordinated commercial relationships among farmers, processors, and traders leading to greater vertical integration and value addition across agricultural value chains. Those value chains will be identified and prioritized, and I think that already some of them have been identified and prioritized on the basis of their potential in terms of local value chain addition, export substitution, and impact in terms of, impact on rural livelihoods, food security, nutrition, but they will also be prioritized for their potential for exports and sustainable private investments in line with the Global Gateway strategy. So I will tell you maybe a little bit about this strategy, because just to mention that the new program will also fit within the education and research component of the Global Gateway. I don't know to what extent you are familiar with this very key development policy framework for whatever we do with and in our partners in the Global South. It is a new European strategy to boost smart, clean, and secure links in digital, energy, and transport sectors, to strengthen health, education, and research systems across the world. The Global Gateway has the intention to mobilize up to 300 billion in investments through a Team Europe approach, bringing together the EU, its member states, and the financial and cooperation institutions. So it's a very important framework for us to navigate. To go back to the EFO program, with the support of participatory action research and extension, stronger and better organized efforts and cooperatives will be expected to promote and scale agroecological practices and innovations to ensure that the prioritized value chains are not only economically viable, but also environmentally sustainable and of course socially equitable, while benefiting in an inclusive manner all actors across the value chains. So this is where the connection with the DESIRA initiatives lies, as the new FO programs will benefit from resources targeted for research and innovation in Africa, in Asia, and in the Pacific region to support converging objectives. As Marco was saying yesterday, several key stakeholders have been already identified. They are the members of the panel. So basically, AgriCord, on the basis of their engagement in managing the FO4 programs, and also on the basis of their experience with the FORI program. There will be also PIFON and AFA as representatives of farmer organizations in the Asia-Pacific region. There will be also APIRAS and APARI as extension and research and innovation coordinating entities in the region. So the design process has started, but it is still ongoing. IFAD, as Marco was telling us yesterday, has already carried out a number of consultations with some of the key stakeholders. APIRAS and APARI have not been involved yet, but they will be in the future. And based on those consultations, IFAD has come up with a proposal for an umbrella program, which is going to be refined in the future, and that Marco is going to present to us right now. So the idea behind today's interaction is for us really to get your feedback and collective thinking, nourished by the very dense and the very rich discussions that have taken place over the last 3 days on how you would see the contribution of research and extension to supporting farmer organizations in leading value chain development based on agroecology and regenerative agriculture. What experiences, what modalities, what partnerships, what mechanisms, what activities drawn from your project and possibly from other initiatives could be worth capitalizing upon in terms of participatory action research and collaboration with research and extension in strengthening agricultural value chains. So the intention is really to get and use your feedback on your experiences as a source of inspiration to inform the design of the new program. So on this basis, I would like to thank you in advance for your contribution, and I hand over the floor to Marco or to Renaud. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin. I think this is quite clear. I've noted value chains development, agroecology, and action research as maybe key ingredients, and of course, farmer organizations as players. But Marco, the floor is yours to maybe present this framework program.
Many thanks, and good afternoon from Italy, and thanks again for the invitation, for the possibility. Can you hear me well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So thanks for the opportunity to really engage with you and participate even remotely in this event. So let me see if I can share my screen with you.
You should be able to. Yes.
Okay. If you can see it.
Yes, maybe I can.
Okay.
Can you
Just
see
a
it?
second. Yes, we have to reorganize chairs. Just give us 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, you can go.
Okay, so it's a short PowerPoint just to illustrate a bit better the ideas. I already anticipated some information yesterday, but just to recap a little bit where we're coming from, as also Mariona just said. So IFAD and EU and other partners like AgriCord, even other funding partners, have been working for over 15 years in a sort of unique type of programs that are called FO4, Farm Organization 4, globally in many different regions. This initiative started in Africa and then was gradually expanded to other regions like Asia Pacific, but also Latin America and Caribbean, ACP countries. So has been really implemented everywhere. After many years, the unique feature of this program that these are really focusing on capacity building of farmers organizations. So the idea is really place farmers organization in the center of the intervention, and with the idea of strengthening the capacity in all different aspects that are related to their work. So including their capacity services to their members. Farm organization, I said yesterday, our definition is a very broad one. So we refer to any type of membership-based organization that is aggregating producers involved in farming, involved in livestock, in fishery, in other related activities in the rural areas. And then of course strengthen the capacity also to provide advocacy services, so to be able to engage in policy discussions. And the unique feature of this program that are designed, implemented for, by, and with farm organizations. So farm organizations are really in the driving seat. This is really a fundamental, let's say, unique feature of these programs. And also important to say that these programs are totally complementary with IFAD core business, which are the sovereign loan operations that we actually finance all over the world. We currently have over 200 projects ongoing everywhere worldwide. A complementary because farm organizations, well, first of all, are an entry point for every IFAD intervention because IFAD mandate, but also help build the capacity of this organization to become the implementing partners in the context of these operations. And we have a few examples already in different regions. I requested you last year if I coordinate an exercise of evaluation of the recent generation of these programs, namely FAO4 ACP, so the FAO program for ACP countries, FAO for Asia, and FAO for Latin America, for a total of 73 million euros investment from EU and IFAD. This evaluation was undertaken during a process of 6 months with several steps. So it was a very comprehensive, very participatory process, including missions to different regions, workshop with key stakeholders, presentation of preliminary findings, feedback received from every partner, and then final presentation to you in Brussels in June 2024, which triggered then a series of comments from EU counterparts, which were finally addressed and incorporated in the final report in September 24. So it was almost a 9 months process overall. As a result of this, we have a number of very important findings that sort of testify the strengths and the effectiveness of this intervention. So the first is that the relevance is extremely important. A program that were designed in their concept long time ago still very relevant, because they really tackle a fundamental need of these farm organizations in terms of really becoming more professional, acquiring more capacity to engage at different levels. It's important to say these programs intervene at the regional, national, local level, but they also engage with global farm organizations. So again, when our concept of farm organization includes like the grassroots organizations, but also global networks, so continental organizations like PAFO, for example, in Africa, or AFA, PFON in Asian Pacific. Also, the activities have been rated as satisfactory, and because they managed to deliver against all their outcome indicators, and they achieve all their objectives. Also, the opportunity for scaling up was extremely important, and it's actually extremely important. It was assessed as very satisfactory because actually one of the findings of the evaluation is that the $73 million that were invested as a grant money from donors leveraged actually more than the same quantity in terms of financing from other partners in the private sector, particularly from financial institutions or value chain actors, showing the validity of the model and the fact that the model was really successful. Some other success factors of the flagged by the evaluation is the fact that these programs are totally aligned with the big global frameworks in terms of development. So the 20 agenda, they are actually contributing to the achievement of some of these DGs, the UN Day, the family farming, and the strategies of both IFAD and EU. As I said already, regional farm organization are the driving seat, which ensures ownership, accountability, and sustainability of the interventions. They also benefited from having a united, logical framework. So basically, in every region, we were working with the same set of objectives and indicators, and a very robust and efficient management fiduciary arrangement, which was basically tested and actually audited several times with in every case a very good result. The day-to-day coordination was ensured by farm organizations at the regional level under the strict supervision from IFAD, which plays the role of supervisory entity vis-à-vis the EU. Some areas of improvement, because we cannot say that everything was perfect, no? So, for example, clearly we can improve on M&E and data management, which is really something that we can improve in the next phase, and also we can improve in building more stronger synergies with IFAD-funded operations in the different countries to leverage also investment from those operations and complementing what this program can do. And also, what can be done in a more systematic way is to assess the capacity of farm organizations using tools like assessment tools that are available. So we are actually defining now a common set of indicators to make sure farm organization can really track the progress made through the capacity being received, and we can compare the situation at the beginning of the program with the situation at the end of the program. going back to the results of the evaluation, I mean, this is just to show you some numbers, some figures. So overall, throughout these programs, we're impacting directly, benefiting 4,000 organizations and 167 farm organizations. But overall, in our calculation, we were estimated that we were somehow servicing 16 million farmers. So it was a really quite efficient way of delivering, let's say, public funds to these kind of organizations. And then you can see or maybe you cannot see because it's very small. There are a number of other output indicators that are really interesting, including on the policy space. There were more than 500 policies that were influenced through the support of the farm organizations empowered by this program. So this is really important because we know that sometimes there are structural issues that are affecting the participation of smallholders in particular value chains or access to particular production factors like land, for example, for certain categories of them. So these issues are extremely important and have to be discussed at the policy level, not only at the project level. As I said before, there was this leverage effect in terms of funds mobilized from the financial sector, which was extremely interesting, almost 1-to-1 ratio. So now this is the evaluation. So what I was saying before, the evaluation was presented to you in Brussels. It was very well received, and as a result of this, there was a commitment from EU and IFAD to sort of join forces again together with farm organizations, partners, and Agricor, which is our other technical partner, to basically think about how to give continuity to this initiative in a new program. So again, what we are presenting now is the result of some months of work. Of course, is a work in progress, but is still a result of quite a lot of efforts made by different partners in really trying to build on what has been done already and try to even innovate in some areas. So one important concept here is that the program is designed with strengthen the resilience of rural family farms. Resilience is a very important concept in all also IFAD operations, enabling smallholder farmers, which are really the focus on our intervention, and their organizations to cope with complex challenges and realize contributors to sustainable food systems. So we really think that farm organizations are agents of change and partners in development for agencies like IFAD, EU, and others. That's really a big fundamental concept or starting point of these programs. How we have been organized to undertake this task. So first of all, this concept of cross-divisional task force within IFAD and also involving other partners. So IFAD, I explained yesterday, is made of different divisions. So our technical division has been engaging very proactively with other divisions, particularly those colleagues who are involved in managing the IFAD funded operations at the country level, to make sure we align and we benefit from their inputs in the design. As I said before, the process started some months ago. So after the completion of the evaluation report, we had a workshop, in-person workshop in Rome in October, in which basically all the partners were involved, and we had we laid the foundation for the key concepts of the new program and the key components. And the idea is to basically elaborate a sort of umbrella program, can be a global umbrella program, and then have a signing of specific contribution agreements for specific regions, because we know funds are coming from different sources. So the plan is to have in Q1 of this year the contribution agreement for Africa, and hopefully towards the third or fourth quarter of this year, the one for Asia Pacific. The amount of money that has been confirmed right are 26 million for Africa and 18 million for Asia. And we are also leveraging, we want to also leverage additional funds, including from IFAD, to cover other regions like Latin America, Caribbean, and the Middle East region and North Africa region that are not covered by the funds from EU. Also, what are some of the key principles of this design? So the first one I already mentioned several times is farm organization ownership. So farm organization are the center, are the driving seat of these interventions. This is really a fundamental principle and concept. Subsidiarity is another one. I mean, as I said, these interventions are happening at different levels. So the idea is that we really exploit the complementarity synergies between the different levels of intervention, global, continental, regional, national, local.
Oh,
This, I think this is the signal from his side.
Marco, can you hear me? There was an internet interruption.
From him,
From his side.
from his side. So he need to.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, it
Can
seems
you
to be
hear
there was
me?
there was an internet disconnection.
Sorry,
Apparently,
apologies. Tell me, I try to connect again. Tell me if you can see the screen. Sorry.
yeah, if you can share your presentation again, please.
Okay, tell me if you can see it.
It's coming up.
Okay, tell me at which point I was disconnected. What was the?
You were talking about coordination across the regional, national, regional, and
Right.
overall.
Okay. So going back to the principle then, to this slide. So another important is this idea of strengthening capacity of the farm organizations based on evidence. So I already mentioned this idea of having like a way to measure the progress that these organizations are making thanks to the capacity building received. So institutional strengthening and capacity building. So the idea is that this program is a golden opportunity for them to really step up their capacity. And we want to measure this through a tool which allows not only to report back to the program, but also the organization themselves to really manage their organization, know what are the areas of improvement, where they need to focus their efforts. Knowledge, appeal, learning, and inclusiveness are very important concepts. I mean, the idea is that there is a sort of peer-to-peer support, from farm organization to farm organization, and knowledge sharing within the program. That's a fundamental objective and principle. What are the key priority areas? So Marion already mentioned some of them, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. So one important element that maybe was not that prominent in the previous interventions is the idea of sustaining, supporting farm organization in basically helping their members to go into a transition to more resilient production systems through climate-adapted practices and focus on agroecology. So this is really a fundamental, let's say, new feature of the program that we want to, strengthen compared with the previous one. The concept of innovation is fundamental, and in particular here, the idea that farm organizations are leading and co-leading this innovation process. And so this also embraces the idea of co-research with farm organization, again, in the driving seat, together with other partners. Marion already explained very well the importance of integration in value chains as a way to have access to different markets and in partnership with private sectors. This is really of the previous intervention. This will be continuing this in this new program with the focus that Marion was making in terms of also linking and complementing what other investment programs are doing. Because, for example, if I fund the projects, most of them are actually adopting a value chain approach. Another element which was already there and will be sort of replicated in the new program is the strengthening of farm organization in their advocacy role for policy dialogue. This is a fundamental, as I said before. And then synergies collaboration with other initiatives, including IFAD operation, EU programs, and among the EU programs, you see there's a number of programs mentioned there. And the idea of this workshop was exactly to have this discussion in the context of the DESIRA week. Okay, going now to the details. What is the structure at the moment of the proposal? So we are thinking about three components. So the first component is really about strengthening farm organization capacity to provide effective services to members, and this is structured in three subcomponents. The first one is related to technical economic services and value chain integration. So basically is really very much about the role of farm organization in fostering economic activities of their members and playing the role they play in terms of aggregating produce, helping in bulking in the produce, negotiating with the buyers, but at the same time provide inputs to their members and why.
Lost
again.
Maybe share his presentation from this end, so he's doesn't have to.
But also ask for closing the camera. I think that would be sufficient, but
Yeah.
especially when.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hello, sorry.
Yeah, we're here. We can hear you. There's a suggestion you send your presentation over and we share it from here because this might be eating the bandwidth.
Yep. Okay, I'll do that. Let me just give me a second. I will do that.
You can share via Zoom to me.
You can send it through the Zoom chat, but maybe, and then we'll open it from here.
Okay, let me see what is the best way to do it. The quickest way. Second. If I send to Renault, is okay?
Yes, we'll manage something from here.
Okay.
Do you have it?
I haven't seen it.
It's going to send it to me and I'll send it. You have to give me your address.
Okay. You have it?
Just a minute.
How can I see it here?
I say so.
I got it on Zoom already.
Okay, good.
Okay, I just sent it.
On là.
Okay. You have it?
Ouais.
Okay, received. Opening. Internet has glitches, but it also works fine. But if you had to bring it directly from Rome, it would take you almost 20 hours. Okay, we have it here. So we're going to launch it in parallel to you, so we can see you. And we have the presentation on the other side of the screen. Just give us a second.
Perfect.
It's coming up.
Oh.
Okay, so we need to move on to
Which one?
which slide we need to
Go
move on.
on. Component. No.
Yeah, the components.
On the component, no. More continue. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, here we go. We're on the slide of the components.
This one. Yes.
Yes.
Correct. Thank you very much, and apologies for this. Sometimes connection is a bit unstable. So I was talking about the components. So component one, as I said, services to members. So divided into three subcomponents. I mean, just to say one preamble of this. I mean, there are so many different ways to cut the same pie. I mean, clearly this is the result of what has been the process so far, no, in the conversation with our partners. I mean, you can see, the elements can be also aggregated in a different way. Our concept is basically mirroring a bit what has been the traditional structure of the programs, which has been already, I mean, always into this kind of three major elements. So the first one is the services to the members. And the innovation here, or the new feature, is the subcomponent 1.3, which is really about resilient farming systems, to agroecological transition, participatory research and co-innovation. So this is really a new element. That's why, which is extremely relevant for this conversation with you today. And then the other two components are more like the traditional ones. So we have advocacy, as I said, an important element. So here the point is strengthening the capacity of farm organization to engage properly and meaningfully in policy discussions, with also evidence-based elements that can be brought to the attention of the policymakers, and strengthening the representation and the possibility of the different levels. The component 3 is really institutional strengthening of the organization themselves. I already mentioned this idea of having a tool to assess their capacity, to track their progress, but also is including program management, because as I said, farm organizations are implementing partners of the program. So the regional farm organizations are really implementing the program and then channeling funds to national organizations, which are then implementing specific activities or other partners. Agricord is also one of the implementing partners in the program. So this is the structure. I would say the innovations compared with the previous phases are one, this idea of having a more explicit strategy to access to finance, because as I said before, this was a bit an implicit result of the previous phase without a proper strategy in place. And now we want to be much more strategic in doing this, and by integrating farm organization in value chains and engaging with private sector with bankable plans, with business plans, adding the probability, the likelihood of possibility of engaging also with other value chain actors and also financial institution is clearly higher. And the second one is this resilient farming system focus with the idea of really helping farm organization to be an instrument, a partner in helping farm organization to cope, their members, the smallholders, to cope with the challenges that they currently face. We discussed yesterday a bit about that. And in this context, we believe, for example, chorus.
I think, Marco, I don't know if you can hear me, but you cut off again.
Hello, hello.
Yes, you're back.
Hello?
Maybe you want to turn off your
Sorry,
camera.
I'm really sorry about it. I don't know. Today is a strange day because I never had so many problems with the internet. Anyway, this is really the punishment for not being with you in Hanoi, you see. So anyway, let's move on because otherwise I don't want to lose the momentum with the presentation. Can you move to the next slide?
Yes. Here we go. So that's the new features we're seeing at the moment, just slide 13.
Exactly. So I just want to close with a few new features. I already mentioned some of them. One important one is that we want to really link with our IFAD colleagues implementing projects, supervising the implementation of projects in different countries, because as I said before, the idea is really to show complementarity with the investment projects and IFAD co-business, which is really funding projects at the country level with governments. So that's one important element. So for this, we are creating a sort of a team which is including colleagues from these different divisions in IFAD. That's a new feature of the program. And the second one is, I already mentioned this idea of the FAO assessment tool and mapping tool as a capacity building instrument. Reinforced M&E system, that's very important. I already mentioned that was an area for improvement in the previous phase. And we have, let's say, some ideas in that front. And then I already mentioned the idea of working more systematically in certain thematic areas like value chain agroecology and co-research. Next slide, please.
This one says thank you.
Okay, that's it. Okay, so that's in a nutshell, of course. We have a concept note of 25 pages already. But I mean, this is just to give you a sense of what are the ideas at the moment. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you. Next, on the panel presentations, we had Katja that went back in her seat.
There's no presentation
As
I can say some words.
key partner and representative maybe of farm organizations. So your views on this?
Well, I'm not really, I mean, in the room there are really representatives of farm organization, maybe PIFON and AFA, but I can maybe say some words about this aspect of research, agroecology and so on, because we have this ongoing PORI program. And that is still continuing actually until 26. So I was saying to Aurélie that there are now then quite interesting things starting to come out about the approaches and so on, and what different types of ways of engagement between farm organization and research are existing, and what are the maybe strengths of these approaches, and maybe we realize that some approaches didn't work that well, etc. So these learnings can be then pulled into also this program that is now being launched. And going forward, I think that still when we think about agroecology, and that has a little bit been what's been coming out from the discussions already here earlier days, is that there's a lot of good practices when it comes to production side, and those can be, as I've been saying, farm organizations are natural scaling mechanisms. So if the service provision is supported, that kind of things can be scaled out. Then the challenges are related to the diversified production, that then the extensionists have to have a little bit different type of skills if they are supposed to be able to think about problems related to potato and tomato and cereal and so on and so forth. And that's of course where then universities and other extension providers are also important partners. But and when it comes to market, that is, I think, the biggest challenge, especially in places where markets are already relatively structured, because there you really need to then think totally different ways of doing. In places like in some countries in West and Central Africa, for example, where markets are not that structured anyhow, and people tend to have relatively small scale of production and are already servicing mainly the very proximity markets and so on, there is in some ways maybe easier to start seeing, okay, if we manage to increase this production, how do we then reorganize the logistic chains and so on. But I think there's still a lot to be reflected in that. Like, what does it look, what does the business plan on a farm and farm organization level look like when you go more into diversified production? I think that's one of the big things that in this new program probably we need to figure out with different types of partners, including of course then bigger private sector players in places where they are the ones that are operating. And then one thing is also in many places quite interesting market is these public programs that has been mentioned also during the discussion. So we have very interesting examples from a couple of countries where farm organizations are big suppliers to school meal programs and so on. So that is something that can be then maybe seen how we can reinforce this type of local market development in other places with farm organizations. Then also sometimes people say, well, you know, commodities, agroecology, that's something that you cannot bring together. And we think is not true. And here, for example, from the Philippines, Khalil is trying to work in farm crop in this, okay, banana is a traditional commodity crop. They try to see, okay, what does it look like when you work in banana value chain, but in an agroecological way. And we have some ideas in this new program with cashew nut, because West Africa is a big producer. Cashew nut is apparently, I've been told, I'm not an agronomist, but I believe scientists will tell me that it's one of the crops that is quite suitable for different types of agroforestry systems. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there, and also for local processing, because that was mentioned also in some discussions, is this value addition side. And that's of course what is very interesting for farm organizations. And when we talk about economical sustainability and so on, if they can get into some processing themselves, that's an interesting thing, and for value chain, because there's a lot of interest, and that also will link up to global gateway ideas that the European investment and this program should have some links. Europe is a big importer of cashew nut. And for agriculture specifically, it's also interesting in the sense that we have German and Dutch owned agri agencies who already are, for example, in Tanzania, making these links between European importers and small scale cashew producers. So there are a lot of all kinds of opportunities, and in this co-design process, of course, we will go then further into this. But that's where I see that there's a lot still to figure out. If we really want to transform the food system seriously more towards this kind of agroecological system, it is what does the market look like? What does agricultural insurance look like when it's more diversified production? Then business plans, they look different. Is it going to be even more difficult than to get loans, for example, when your production is diversified, or is it better? I don't know. So that's where we probably count on them some economists and so on to try and understand how this could be made work in a systemic way, so that there is really also an economic incentive for farmers to do this, because farmers cannot transform just for the sake of transforming. They can't do it for us, for European ladies like myself, so that I can continue flying here and there and so on. They need to, also get food for their own children and so on. So those are the things. Then good thing is, and Marco was also in the presentation referring to this, is the strategic planning and so on. As I mentioned before, for example, AgriCord approach is that we work. That's why I said that for us sometimes it's difficult to think this project, program, this kind of thing, because we work with organizations who are more permanent structures, and they have their strategic planning cycles and so on. And now then the new thing also for farm organizations is then to impute this climate aspect, for example, into their strategic planning. And that's one of the, because people love tools and methodologies, it's reassuring when you can say that I'm applying methodology. So for example, that we've been rolling out already in I think it's 17 countries or something like that. There's a methodology called Building Resilience that helps farm organizations to reflect in a structured way what are the climate risks that they are facing, and then coming up with priority plans and so on. And I know that regional farm organizations are also doing this kind of work and so on. And this then goes back to financing in a sense that with some people here, we've been discussing how could agriculture benefit, and especially smallholder agriculture, benefit better from available climate financing. Because what we see is that when there are grants, before they were more general SDG work on development kind of grants, now it all shifts to climate adaptation or climate mitigation funds. So in one pocket, you take from one pocket and put it in the other one. And the problem with that is for farm organizations especially, is that it's much harder to get from this other pocket where it's named climate financing, because then the indicators, measurements, verifications are much tougher. So that's another thing that's where we count on clever partners from organizations like universities, C4 ICRAF, etc., to help to see like what kind of modeling, what kind of data systems, what kind of things you can set up, so that also this type of production could benefit from these funds that come from those climate or biodiversity streams, because that's another pocket that is opening. So is this enough of a presentation, or should I continue?
You've handed me the microphone, so I suppose you consider this as enough of a presentation. Okay. I don't know if we take comments or questions already.
Yes.
There was the idea of inviting farmers organizations that are present in the room. I think they can contribute from where they are without setting up a complete panel, I would invite them and other players here to react. I think we're tapping into this tension, this nexus that Eltan mentioned when between agriculture and environment broadly. There's other two pockets that you mentioned. But out of the DESIRA initiative, and maybe to open the discussion, I'm thinking of projects that are not in the region, but that also look at agroecological questions. I'm thinking of Klimaloka, that's operating in the Andean context, in lowering cadmium residues in coffee production. There's a few projects also working on cocoa. Cocoa for Future, for instance, in Africa, in several countries. I'm thinking of projects working on agroforestry. Lloyd mentioned AgroInnova in the dry corridor in Central America, which is working on agroforestry. There's projects in Cameroon also working on agroforestry, and I think this is to hand the floor over to the people here in the region that are working. I've heard agroecological policies, guidelines for ASEAN, and then their application all the way down back to farmers, to farmers, for instance. So maybe one of the questions is blending or articulating agroecology, resilience, food systems resilience, and we heard yesterday that food systems it's much more than just producing agricultural output, which is the natural mandate of farmers' organizations. And we've heard it loud and clear. But then this additional layer, how does it come into play, and who should be the actors involved in this component? I'm thinking of component 1.3 that Marco clearly mentioned, and maybe also in the cross-cutting component, the component 3. There's this component 3.3, which is about also harnessing knowledge and feeding back knowledge, monitoring and evaluation systems. We've heard here of the importance of monitoring, evaluation, and learning. And maybe this is where I'll open the big word, but maybe research can come into play. And I think this is one part of the articulation we need to discuss here, either through regional organizations, the FARAs, the APARIs of this world, and maybe also the C4E crowd, the CIRAs of this world. So maybe I want to hand the floor over to APARI to start with, and we take it from there, right?
Can I bring the microphone to APARI? It's okay. He's with us and he's worried. Okay, right.
Yeah.
May I wish to continue?
Thank you for this opportunity from APARI. I'm Dr. K.
Come forward.
I'm K.S. Varaprasad, long name. Prasad is fine. I'm working with APARI since 2016, and I'm also associated with the Indo-German Global Academy for Agroecology Research and Branding, which is a German project operating in India, in Andhra Pradesh. So I'm also working with them. So it gives a perfect context that we have been trying to develop a concept note for the EU. Then recently we have received revision, including the value chains and markets. We are preparing with our co-applicants as well as with the partners. And whatever, if there are some sessions from here, we'd like to take it forward. So I would like to say that the APARI, already I think Murat has introduced, we have 22 core member countries connecting to the farmer organizations in these countries, which are UN member states. Then I'm also telling that perhaps the largest farmer base is the Indo-India, AP. In AP, we have 1.2 million farmers registered for agroecology, which is a large number. Not that all these farmers do agroecology on the entire farm. They actually, in the process of registered, maybe half acre very small unit, testing, moving forward. This has been happening for the last 7-8 years. Then I also would like to say the initiatives and this academy, which is actually a government company from Andhra Pradesh, which is run by the Raitu Sadhikara Samstha, is the name of that company registered from the government of Andhra Pradesh. And this has also started recently an education program for those agroecological practitioners specific. If you have done the agroecology for 3 years, you are eligible to join this degree program. It's a 4-year course on agroecology, 75% practical, 25% theory. Only 6 days in a month they come to a classroom. Rest of it is they're doing on their own farm. So this is a unique opportunity of connecting to the farmers, and also we have an excellent co-applicants in this from the, of course, CIRAD, GRET, Asia. All these are part of this concept note which we have been developing, and they have given an excellent input. Now we are in the process of including the value chains in markets, which was not there before. And as you know that almost by 28, there is 22 billion market for the sustainable agricultural products as estimated by FAO. So there is right now, even in Andhra Pradesh, we see that it is livelihood and local markets. It is doing very well, excellent. But the vision is that we have to enter into the global markets. When we enter into global markets, we have to actually consult several global agencies, whether to build the framework, which is a gap right now. And we are talking about the phytosanitary certificate and other things. But if it comes to the food safety, and then this doesn't have even a framework. And what is organic farming? We have an excellent support actually from government of Andhra Pradesh, the chief minister, and who is actually focusing on agroecology in the Davos, which is going to happen on natural farming. That is a form of agroecology. So where he was also trying to articulate that all the public organizations working in market, there are several organizations, and also the private, come together, appoint a CEO, and try to see how integration can be done, how aggregation of the products can be done. And the producer trust from USA was also part of this initiative. So there is a need for felt for marketing and value chains is extremely important. Right now, we are at ground level, which needs to be further developed. If you see, the landscape is a major problem. There are agroecological farmers, but here and there. It's not as a complete landscape. Even in India, what I'm talking, 1.2 million, it's not that as a landscape. That's a major issue. We also have the land degradation problem, biodiversity depletion, and then food safety issues like pesticide residues, and also aflatoxin residues, contamination of soils, even the heavy metals present there. If the agroecology is hypothesis, agroecology, the soil heavy metals infested, the product does not have the heavy metals. There are mechanisms which may operate, which we are trying to put a research hypothesis and trying to test it in this project. Then we have also and many people think, even in India, elsewhere also, agroecology is a traditional science, and you are taking us back to 50 years, 100 years. So it's not so. It's a modern science. Even the planetary boundary science, which is hardly 10, 15 years old, if we are crossing all the planetary boundaries, the traditional wisdom is taken to tackle the current climate crisis. That's how it is to be looked at, so that the universities and research institutes many times, they say that this is an old technology, you're taking us back. That's not true. Then we have the global policy dialogue, and it takes a lot of time to, it should be the part of the concept note, we believe, that like the FAO or WTO STDF, Standard Trade Development Facility, with whom we are working about 4 projects in the region, Asia Pacific region. So these are the people in addition like OIE, Codex, IPPC, UNEP, Agroecology Coalition, all these partners are taken as knowledge partners, And we would like to develop the framework for the markets, which is very important and a long term, and it takes long time to really make it on the ground. And the FARA is also part of working with the body. We are together, it also makes the problem. Then sanitary policies, phytosanitary policies are in place. We are going to E5. But sanitary policies, there is a gap. In these sanitary policies, it is different. It is very basic level we are there, and harmonizing the sanitary and the phytosanitary policies and good agriculture practices. Gap. There is a lot of scope to work there. Then we have the global trade policies for long-term game, and then we need to work with them. There are the sustainable agriculture. If you see, we are looking for the wonderful opportunity of working with the EU on this project in the region. And then we also selected some of the countries from the Southeast Asia and South Asia also, like Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Fiji, in addition to Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and a lot of ground level experiences from the asset project are incorporated into this. Then I see that the integrating the government entities and private is a real big challenge, which just initiated, but we have the experience. And then in the region and in the policies also, somebody was telling in the morning, it's the project is over, then the entire framework collapses. It's not just like that. We have in case of the biopesticide regulations we made for Bangladesh and other Asian countries, we are working. There is a community of practice which is continuing. And there is a lot of interest from the private industry to get interacting with the research institutes. And there is a possibility really to take it forward. And the last point I would like to say is there is a lot of potential to work on the agroecology, including the value chains and markets. And we will take our knowledge partners and co-applicants together. We will revise it and come back to you. Thank you for this opportunity.
If I can add one or two things. Yeah, please. Thank you very much. I mean, Apari has been engaged with the project process, I think, for over a longer term. So we initially proposed and have plans, but I think things are changing. That is what we proposed. And then, I think in addition to that, we might also add some other considerations. One question I would like to ask the project is that, the farmer organization, farmer servicing is not always done with formal organizations. Sometimes farmer servicing can be, offered by informal organizations or other organizations. So the project might need to formalize them under the umbrella of larger farmer organizations or institutionalize them to really create a larger impact domain. There is, I think, like in the presentation, I couldn't see that, maybe it's there in the details. But in addition to technical and the financial servicing, there might be an institutionalization support for those informal farmer servicing organizations to become formal ones with the networks. I think that is informal sector or the other organizations that provide in Asia is the same. We have formal, but in India also there's a very big informal or Lao and so on. So that is one question. And when it comes to institutionalization, we probably can use its experience in the more organized research conditions. So I think that is one addition. And also the second thing, on the first day we discussed about AI and digital technologies and new. There is one business model called data monetization. So on the grassroots at the last mile, farmer organizations generate a lot of knowledge and data. Actually, farmers generate an asset. So far, there are not many valuation or benefit models for farmers to benefit from their own data. Research organizations, our partners and the others are going there and they're collecting and using that data, but there is no clear mechanism to return back that value. So one novel idea might be also the world of AI and the value of money could be also improve the capacity of farmer organizations to create data assets. So you use the data generated by farmers or by farmers to generate value. So this is also maybe more like a need, I don't know, maybe it's there, but can be a good way, and probably for the future, it will become even more important service than necessarily advisory. You want to add anything?
Thank you, Murat. This sounds like tapping into an invisible asset and untapped asset. Yes. I would like to invite Afa for a reaction or a presentation. I don't know.
Yes, thank you. Are we all still awake? It's the last program for the. Okay, so yeah, because I can see many Lanis. Yeah, anyway, I don't know what is the guideline for commenting, but I have 3 points.
Go ahead.
Okay. First point is where does this FO4 program situate in the overall AFA? What is the relation of this FO4 in overall AFA organization? No? First, in AFA, as I already presented, we are a network of national farmers organization. We have 5 thematic agendas, which we agreed as a group. Land rights, agroecology, women empowerment, youth empowerment, and cooperative development. We are united along this agenda. And the Secretariat is mandated by the member to create programs to implement this agenda. And the way we develop proposal is with them, with our members. So we develop many proposals along this 5 thematic agenda. So in our process of developing proposal and resource mobilization, we partner with IFAD because we underwent a due diligence process. There was a restricted call proposal in 2012, and then we submitted a proposal and we were selected. And then that was MTCP2, Medium-Term Cooperation Program for Strengthening Farmers Organization. And out of that MTCP2, there was the successor program, which was now supported with EU. We call it ASEAN Farmers Organization Support Program, AFOS. But that project only covered ASEAN, AFOS. And then that project ended. And then there was this new FO for Asia. But this FO for Asia was able to support us beyond ASEAN. So we were happy. We were able to work in 16 countries with this support. So we continue to work along this. And we are towards the end of the project. That's why we participated in this next project. As all of us is here, no? When one project ends, we decide the next phase. That is our life, no? While we are trying to maintain our sustainability, because we are getting a membership fee. But how much is our membership fee from our member? It's symbolic, because we know they are not yet enough to pay, no? Because they're also developing their sustainability. So while we are building that sustainability measure, we need to mobilize resources externally. And this project is part of that. So that's the context. But for us, we cannot go to EU, unfortunately, directly, Mario. I hope there can be a way of accrediting, because who can access from EU? IFAD. And other big entities, because the EU has their own accreditation process. No? So for us, even though we also want to work with EU, we work with IFAD because that's the more realistic way for us, because IFAD is our preferred partner because we are in the FAFO, the Farmers Forum. The FAFO is a platform created by IFAD to be a consultative mechanism for their governing council. So AFA is part of the factor. So with that, we have a close interaction with IFAD, and part of that interaction is helping us to mobilize resources. That's why we are working with IFAD, and as already mentioned we affirm what Marco had said. So we have undergone this long process. And actually, Marco, to be honest, we are waiting because we already submitted something, no? And we're about to close also our project. So we are waiting for IFAD, Marco, Antonella. Where is now the proposal that we have submitted? And this is a heads up for us that what is happening, we just learned today. So, but because from our side, we have that proposal and we are waiting for response. And if EU has a response to IFAD, then IFAD will tell us and then we will respond. That is the usual way we understood the process. Okay. Second part, just to put into context our involvement in this project. No? The second point. I appreciate the process all of us are in. Apaari said that they have already prepared proposal and also submitted, right? And also Apira said that they have prepared. And that is where we are also. So we are happy that there are many proposals, and in all these proposals, farmers' organizations are intended partners and recipients. So that's what I'm thinking. There are many proposals, and these are all good opportunities, no? Because it all would like to help the farmers, and we are all open to it. And my third point, the problem is if these proposals are all looking at the same pie, and because that pie is so small, then we have to compete and outsmart each other, which is not good, which does not show where we are best. But what we are thinking is how can we collaborate? How can we see the synergy across this project? Not necessarily integrating our project to your project, your project to our project, but finding a way where this project can independently work, but in synergy to have greater impact for the community. So these are my 3 points. I personally and organizationally, we see no reason why DESIRA or APIRAS or APAARI program to be continued. But the complexity is in the process, which we are not in control. Like for us, I am not ready to give comment on a co-designing process because when we report back to our member, they will ask us, why are you co-designing again? We already submitted, no? So if there will be co-designing, then we have to go back because it's not only AFA who was part of this FO4 process. It's non-AFA members in Asia. So if there will be a co-designing, then we have to go back to them and ask them, oh, this is the comment of IFAD as given by the EU. So we need to look at it and give our comment and give again to IFAD because that's the way we are doing it. No? So that's my 3 points. I think we don't have that, to look into each proposal because you have your own way, no? You have put your own energies, expertise in each of that. So we fully respect it and we fully agree that cross-project there should be synergy. That's all. Thank you.
Good question. This was working. Thank you very much. Lenny, this is, I'm not certain this is the place to discuss the piping and the tubing and how they connect. No, I understand it's important, but my understanding of this workshop was that it was to gather lessons learned and see how this would fit maybe the ingredients of the pie rather than how it's cut, if I may say so. So I'd like to give back we've heard the main actors here. I think it would be interesting to I'll pass you the floor. But it would be interesting also to, I think we've had very rich discussions over the last 2.5 days, not only in terms of who does what and who connects to what and whose pipe it is, but rather into what is, I mean, as community manager, I would go back to this question of community. We all ended up this morning feeling that we're part of the same community. I would say that for me, the question here is to understand what is common and what should be continued, and then how it can be continued is, I wouldn't say secondary, but we understand there's one program, and then I think we're discussing co-design of at least some of the components of this program. I see Marion nodding, so I'm not saying complete nonsense. We have Luis raising his hands from Brussels. Maybe we'll give him the floor. Luis.
Yes, good afternoon to everyone, and greetings from Brussels. My name is Luis Rodriguez, and I will say I'm Marion's counterpart on the programs, EU programs on reinforcing capacities for farmers organizations, as well as Marion has a more focus on the research and innovation part. So, but to the risk of repeating, it was just to, besides greeting to all of you, and be happy to participate remotely to this workshop, is just to have a remind on the intention of this gathering and get together. So we have 2 EU large initiatives, the DESIRA one, an initiative, or rather a family of initiatives, no? The DESIRA part on research and innovation, and we have as well these capacity building programs that we have developed for more than 15 years with IFAD. And this workshop give us an opportunity to let's put all together, because in the end we are all actually focusing on farmers, no, on the smallholders, on the agroecology agenda. We have many things in common, and it was a very good development that our colleagues from the DESIRA, from Marion's team, decided to actually join forces in our next capacity building programs for farmers organizations, and even co-fund our program. But that implicates that, as we are doing in this workshop, we want these both families of actors and initiatives to at least know each other, talk to each other. And I like a lot what you just said about the ingredients of the pie. It's not about cutting the pie. The pie is another discussion. It's at least to know each other as partners, is to know what are the main initiatives, what are the eventual synergies, and let's start with this point and see what can lead us ahead to know. And well, it was just to have this quick remind, and to say that this initial workshop in the Asia Pacific is a very good starting point for this. So that was my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis. This is very clear. I think we've identified already. I mean, in the discussions in these 2.5 days, we've identified many, not even elements of convergence, but I think commonalities across players and also recommendations. And what I just pointed out from the presentation from Marco, no, this component 1.3, which is about participatory research, and also making sense of that into knowledge, which can be fed back. We've heard many feedback mechanisms from a party. We've heard from Agricole. We've heard from farmers organizations in the region. We've heard from platforms like CASIC, for instance, or LICA. So maybe the question here is, I mean, because these platforms are in place. When I hear agroecology guidelines for ASEAN, and I'm hearing that then at the level of the member states, the question now is how to bring that back to the actual member states and the farming communities. And I'm hearing farmers organizations are going to be the driver's seat of this project, but it has to come together with research. Then my question is, as ingredient of the pie, how does that come together? So I'll give the floor to the Marian.
Yeah,
What do you want with this?
I just wanted to build upon what has just been said, because I understand that you have submitted your proposal, and I understand the frustration of not receiving an answer or clear answer, and being again solicited for designing what you have already felt you have contributed to. But what we have heard today is what we have. So you've seen that it's an umbrella program, which is still very broad. So now, as Luis mentioned, we need to, now we have the collection of ingredients, and we have to figure out how we should mix them, and along which modalities, with whom doing what. So we still have a long way to go in terms of designing the whole thing. So, I mean, and that's what this session today is about, to contribute. And also, I mean, we are going to contract with that. We have specific reasons to doing so, but you shouldn't see that necessarily as a problem, but it might be an opportunity, because I believe from the inside that being an implementing partner of the EU is not always a happy thing to do. I mean, it's a lot of work, and it's not at all the best and the most enjoyable part of the job. So I mean, yeah.
Here.
Hardcore discussions. Before I go to you, I think I want to give the floor to Rashid, and maybe we'd like to hear FAO as a global player.
So I just wanted to, because we have started thinking about what appears as an extension community to contribute to this proposal. So I think this is how I started looking at it. One is what appears as a kind of a social infrastructure with 5 sub-regional units, which are all community of extension people. So we have country forums. There are platforms which can really contribute to this project. So I thought maybe during the project, because if our strengths are basically in terms of capacity need assessment, development of training modules, and also in terms of training of trainers. So there's a lot of things on the extension side which we have been doing. And I believe this is also an opportunity to build the capacity of extension in this region, because it doesn't mean that we know all these kind of things, from the DESIRA side also, we have developed modules on climate change adaptation. We have training modules on value chain, but we never thought about this kind of looking at value chain and agroecology. So I think there is a lot of opportunities I see for learning and adapting and building the capacity of the extension community during this project, and also using the extension community to contribute to the capacity of the farmer organization. But I think one is that is during the project. But I think I am also thinking in terms of a scaling from the day one, if you are really thinking about it, is that even after the project, if these capacities are built into these regional organizations, then there is a possibility that we should be able to scale up these lessons across other countries in the region who may not be exactly part of the geographical focus of this project. So I see a lot of opportunities in terms of supporting and learning from this project. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Actually, I mean, the explanations you gave, I was going to ask about that, but you did really well, Marco and Manuel. But what I want to produce is, as Marco said, this is an organizational innovation and new ways of doing things. And there will be a lot of questions, for example, similar coming from farmer organizations. You go down to the farmer, I mean, that sentiment is everywhere. So it's very representative, but we are developing a new organizational innovation. This way of working is new. So what I want to propose is to start documenting these processes and, how we bring the things together, and how bringing things together by itself becomes an interest research, because this is really going to be happening all around the project. And this is also the risk of, creating an internal tension, because we have that already in some of our other projects. So let's try to document these, explain to farmers, extensions, and researchers why this is new and how we are learning. And maybe also report it back, EU and IFAD. We tried this as an organizational innovation. We could achieve these, but it needs to be this. So I just want to propose this as an actually what is happening is an interest area, and then continue building that up.
You wanted to say something? Whenever.
Okay, so I'm just sitting here from FAU side and kind of having a lot of questions coming to mind. And then also I'm thinking, okay, the last time around EU DESIRA funded 80 projects, about 360 million euros, right? That is a lot of money. And there is a lot of learning happened from that investment. So, you know, we talk about this, resource scarcity. At the same time, we have all these resources being spent and generated so much learning, and we made mistakes. We did something good, we did something that generated learning. So how much of it is being used in the next time round? And 18 million does seem to be small, but it's a lot of money. And so how can we make best out of that? And how can we bake that cake with the right ingredients in the right way so that it's in the end tasty and feeds most of the people that need to be fed, right? So and so, you know, when Marco presents the proposal, it's just the tip of the iceberg. We're getting taste of it, but maybe there are lots of things in the detail that we don't see. However, I do not see in the proposal that many of the discussions in the essence of last 3 days coming out. And I don't see anything in relation to the systems change. I don't see anything in connection with scaling. I don't see anything, well, I'm exaggerating when I say anything, it's like extreme words, but, you know, very limited indication of multi-stakeholder process. Producer organizations, I'm in favor of producer organizations and grassroots, supporting grassroots efforts and the regional organizations. That's what I have been doing most of my career. And however, from what I learned from all the experiences I have gained in with the FAO and other work is that we have to, if we cannot continue investing, continue working with the part of the system, we have to, this is why full discussion, I don't have to repeat the 3 days of the discussion, but you know, I just have a lot of questions. And then also, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be an opportunity to work on evidence? We talked about lack of evidence, especially when it comes to grassroots, agroecology, the processes, etc. And there was a one half sentence about knowledge management and the M&E, but also to what does it mean, how to make that. I was thinking also AFA's presentation, uploading, downloading. Can we also use this uploading, downloading process to generate evidence? In FAO, we talked a lot about grassroots innovations and building grassroots innovation knowledge base and database that will benefit the everybody. So can we build synergies there as well? And yeah, so also maybe I stop here and add more. I have also policy advocacy. When who will be doing the policy advocacy? This is whole question mark to me. And I have been trying to influence policies and work with the national stakeholders in this policy environment last some years. And if producer organization, I don't know, maybe it's IFAD or there will be project team, but it is again, how is that embedded in the national project? The producer organization is advocating themselves and doing policy analysis. I don't know if the policymakers, etc., will be how that will be applied and how sustainable the results will be. So just to start the discussion.
That's good here. I would want to pass the floor to Agre because I heard you raise your hand first of all, and then we heard from Marco that this project is it's Asia, but it's also Africa. So
Thank you. Just 2 points. One is to buttress the point made by Belgium. We see in what is new is resilience, agroecology, and value chain and so on. What I'm missing is the whole orientation to the food systems, where we embrace nutrition, inclusiveness, in addition to what is listed there. Attention to the youth, for example. They're probably captured in the bigger document, but from what we've seen, that is missing. The second point is about the synergies. I think limiting the synergies to IFAD projects will miss opportunities for other possible synergies of projects of the partners and projects financed by the main funder, the EC, DESIRA Plus, for example, and others. So if we could consider expanding and revisiting the synergies. Thank you.
thank you very much, Agre.
Thank you. So as Vietnam, we are also beneficiary of IFAD project for a long time. And also, I think that the initiative EU IFAD is really positive, I see, because so from one country like Vietnam now for the IFAD funding for poverty reduction, etc. We can use only the money for infrastructure investment because we provide the consultation services for IFAD since a long time, 10 years, more than 10 years. So we also contribute in the supporting for farmer organization, mostly collaborative group, informal group, very small, and maybe upgrade to cooperative, etc. But now with the new regime of the finance, IFAD can only finance for infrastructure investment. That means the lack of component of the soft skill, capacity building, training. So I think that. Secondly, IFAD project up to now, they never talk about agroecology. We work a lot on value chain, etc., market oriented for small farm, but not agroecology and systemic. So I think that if we can, in the most Asian country, we can, based on the Asian guideline, and I think that our need is to disseminate this kind of guideline to the local territory, where also maybe IFAD also invest in the infrastructure, etc. So, but we work on the soft skills. So it's really positive, and we can have synergy. And I also emphasize on the approach of territorial management. This is very important because up to now we have farmer cooperative, value chain, and what is the agroecological value chain? And also territorial friendly. So I see it's very positive to work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, maybe one possible in the head.
Okay.
So thanks, Rano. But the point I would like to add is that based on the presentation we saw, because it's more or less again DESIRA. It's not really scaling the way I see it, because research and innovation is the first place. Then you go to the farmer organization who has no experience in research and innovation. Okay, they are part of it, but it's not actually led by the farmers. So you need to train them, understand them. If you, in general, normally you talk to a farmer that you ask him to do research. Farmers would not say that why I do the research. It's not my job. My job is to make the way it is profitable, it is making my income and things like that. It's not my job to do the research. So you need to make the adoption of the research in a way that makes sure that he gets income and he gets profitable. So it sounds something is like a proven technology, but you put the research and innovation, but you need to ensure that it's profitable. If it's not profitable, farmers would say, you know, I'm a poor man, I'm losing the resources and I spend my time, things like that. And then the third point is this is smallholders. Okay, smallholders, of course, something for the development of water point of view we really like to do, but aggregating smallholders and bringing them together is also quite hard work because these people are very poor. Every day the time is well for them. It's not that they spend their time for free. So in bringing them together, are also that's also a matter of spending resources. And then capacity building. So I see the way this is the DESIRA funded projects who has been already made make some successful look for the scaling. This call is not really for scaling. It's really asking for again to the research in a different dimension, which is also good, but that's not really for scaling. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, it's back to the discussion on scaling. Yeah, what is it we scale? Do we scale the results or do we scale the processes? Maybe in scaling research. So,
okay, just want to share that I also have experience with when I work with the EU funded project. Maybe I would like to apologize that I say something that wrongly, maybe different from the other. But you know, first one that I would encourage all of our and try to understand the rule and regulation of the EU. Because any decision decided by all other member states is not easy to change. You know, when I worked 20 years ago, I worked for the EU of the EU funded project in my country, about 26 million euros, and I was the project director of that project called the Ecozone. We signed a financial agreement with the EU, and the officer who signed work at Brussels. But just we spent some day at the beginning, we did a mistake. Just only 10,000 euro. Nobody at the EU office in my country cannot decide. The officer who signed the finance agreement flown to meet with the government and make a decision to change it, you know. And finally, the government decide to return the money back to the EU. I think that very importantly that you should try first to understand, because very difficult to change some rule and regulation, or maybe, you know, a lot of time that the EU officers spend to design is not fit for one country, but for Africa and also for Asia. I think so. I'm sorry to say that, but I have experience with that. I cry many times because of that. When I asked the officer at the EU office in my country, he or she cannot answer the reason why. If he or she provide a wrong answer, he or she had to pay from the money. Even I saw, so if I did a mistake, I have also to pay the money from my pocket. I think it's quite the good the experience, but I like to work with the EU in this project because, like at the beginning, I worked hard for that. You can see, I spent for 1 year. I think that I drink coffee around 300 cups, 5 cups a day, because I don't know how I can find a solution. Finally, you know, I asked someone else. No, they just you can make a decision by yourself because you are the project director. So finally, I tried to find a way that by many way, but it's good. After ending of the project, we have more experience like that. That's when give up more freedom, but we have to be careful. I think that is very even like now our from the some of the our the just we like that. I also understand that, but you should understand about the donor. Donor is not easy, you know. If you want any article want to change, all the member states have to decide and make a decision. And it's not easy. That's why I just want to take this opportunity that to share about my. But you know, 5 years, I learned a lot. Like I think that like someone pushed me in the cold water, so I just awake. So I think this is one I want to say. Another one that a good example from the DG this morning about the presentation. If we lack of information, she have a good presentation about how we could get the information from some the least developed country or some the smallholder farmer or community. Very difficult, very difficult. So the way that they make a present this morning is quite very important. So I would like to apologize that if I did something wrong. So, but I'm not pro EU, but I I like all us to understand that if we work hard, we try to find the way we can share, we can discuss, and to understand. I think that the presented by Marco is quite it's not clear, but you need to find by our own way. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you wanted to comment.
Yes, just for the record that that I have not been crying because Marian or Luis have been lucky. And I do drink liters of coffee, but it's not because of them.
Okay, other comments? Stefan, do you want to say something? Stefan, Gopinath, you want to say something?
Just to provide some context from our end, so we've been involved in the core design phase for the F44 impact project for the past few months. Okay. Yeah, so we've been involved with the core design of the project, and we have already submitted our proposal through IFA. And our project is basically focusing on, and it's just a follow-up from the F4 project that we were part of. So our project is basically focusing around building climate resilient and sustainable farming systems. So we'll be doing this through working with our farm organizations, so 13 Pacific Island countries in total. And so some of the things we'll be focusing on is sustainable farming systems, improved services, policy advocacy, and institutional capacity development. Overall, we're looking at about 150,000 farmers. And this is going to be both FO members and our non-members as well, focusing on smallholder and family farmers involved in subsistence and semi-commercial agriculture.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that still keeping the same I think like proposal that I just proposed this morning. It's like, because I mean no matter what we do, we need to connect the dots. But right now it's really blurring, I mean, like between the dots. So I mean, it's like my question is to you that how EU is going to support the guideline implementation in the next, phase. That it's like right now we got a guideline. You support up to here, but the next step, the action of the guideline, how the EU is going to be, positioning in this support. Thank you.
You, very clear question. Any, if you want to answer this?
I guess you mean the ASEAN policy guidelines on agroecology. So the question is not to me, but to colleagues at the EU delegation in Vietnam. So, I mean, you should approach them. I guess they are very well aware of the asset program, but the responsibility to carry on and further support the implementation of the guideline is really lying with them. So I would really encourage you to go and advocate for further support to implement the guidelines, which are well recognized as an important achievement. So they should be, easy to convince. I don't want to preempt on the answer.
Okay, that's an answer. Still.
That's very tricky to come. I agree in that question of connecting. So we talk about the ASEAN guidelines. It's a bit of a trap, right? Because the guidelines is an output, right? It is a framework. But the idea is that behind that framework, I think this morning it has been made clear that it is a process, right? It is a process which relies on coalition building. And we've been saying about the value of the partnership per se. There was a nice point of culture of innovation by partnering, right? So many people are saying funding partnerships, right? So I think our process is, what is it? Needs to be improved, right? It's really a gradual thing, right? It's something on the way. And but what I'm sensing is that it has very much triggered many different people on the table. And so you're right, there is a lot of recognition, but then we're saying we're not addressing agroecology and market, we're not addressing agroecology and value chains, but in the ASEAN guidelines, it's one of the key leverage points, right? And it is addressed quite, well, shouldn't say substantially because it's still a framework, but what I mean substantially is that because it comes from the experiences from the different countries as much as we could, and considering the diversity behind developing value chains, developing local markets, farmers as one of the market changers, right? Obviously in a constrained world from a market perspective because of all of the different players around and the power dynamics, but farmers creating markets through participatory guarantee system approaches, linking with consumers in different institutional settings. So there are a number of experiences that I think we've got started developing, and we created a space to continue bringing these experiences together. So I'm feeling terrible because I'm pledging for something I've been supporting so much, so I shouldn't be the one, but I have the feeling that, yeah, it's a document, but behind the document, the idea was that it has to be continue being fed. When Fergus this morning was saying top down, bottom up, that was really the idea. I mean, we've been moving in and out from the ASEAN level under Tateva lead to the local level, working in our own flagships, but working with AFA, with ASIADRA, in bringing their experience from their local ideas, the LICA focal points, bringing other experiences, taking secondary documentation. Well, it's limited, right? It's a starting point. It's only 2 years. And Oli was saying that it took 15 years only for the cotton industry to create such a proper network and ecosystem. So, but I have the feeling that there are quite a number of things, and I'm not going to detail all. I think many people have been bringing parts and pieces of the puzzle that we are trying to build up there. So it's not the ASEAN guidelines per se, it's the process accompanying it. It's imperfect, that was my word. It's imperfect. We need to include more. Sovan was saying, it builds on Alizea. it builds on DESIRA, it builds on all of the process. But it's true, we've not been working enough with the farmer organization so far directly. I mean, bringing more, making it more substantial. We've been integrating some knowledge from farmer organization, but not working enough together to make it further, to really make it more strong, right? So, yeah, so it's imperfect, but I would say, yeah, it is already connecting a number of dots that we've been talking about over the 2.5 years, and you were talking about food system level. The ASEAN guidelines have been developed considering agroecology from a food system perspective, right? So we are looking not only at the agricultural landscape level, I mean, not only the farm, the agricultural landscape level, and then the market level, and then all of the different types of partnerships, the financing sphere on its own. Also, all of these things, how do we create these agroecological transformations? So, and it's not like defining agroecology, that's not the purpose, it's really these transitions, as Itomi was saying this morning. How do we build up this transition progressively? But from a food system perspective, when Sovan was saying, we've been doing with under ALISEA, these national theory of change pathways. It was how does learnings from agroecology fit in a food system perspective? How do we get further into these agroecological dimensions to really create more sustainability into our food system transformation? How do we bring up, where do we want to get, what does it mean for us in different contexts, agroecology, but not only farm, but also agroecology when we talk about, yeah, I was saying market transformation yesterday. So I'm too conceptual, I'm a researcher, but the idea really well put on the table together. Again, it was only a theory of change process, but visioning at food system level, not only visioning at one specific part of the system, right? Probably need to be done better. Systems thinking is a complicated thing. We all have different way of approaching the system, right? Very different perspective, but it's a pathway where we're trying to continue with, and we hope to have more forces joining, because as Lani was saying, outcompete each other, creating silos again, bringing us in different direction again. So sorry, I've been too long.
No, it's fine. We're here to listen to people. It's fine.
Many things has been already said for what I wanted to point it out, and some of my of the issues for me maybe are some research questions. So, for example, how to tackle the issue of territorialization with an entry point by the value chain and to the farmer organization, or you tackle the fact that some farmers are not in the organization. Who are they? Who will be the excluded people from this process? Or the problem of the future orientation versus the immediate needs of the farmers and of the existing community and the communities that need to be developed. For example, we're in Asia, we have a middle class which is developing rapidly in the country, but the value chains are not necessarily there, or are developing, for example, in Vietnam, but not in Cambodia yet. Are we going to make the connections of the farmer with his value chain to be built in the future? So maybe these are already some research questions, but what I was missing, what was not clear for me was the status of the component, because it seems to me that you had you could reinforce, you could work on the capacity building on the farmer organizations, the component 3, by doing the component 1 and or the component 2 in the same times. You could have the synergies between these different points, and I didn't see them, and I didn't know exactly whether because it was obvious for the people that designed the program, or it just was not designed like that. So yeah.
Can I just make a clarification while I was, because I think there is a trap I've been getting in when I say we're not only working at farm level, it's a trap, right? Because it's the agroecological 5 thing where we say we depart from farms and we go to higher level, landscape, blah, blah, blah. But we depart from farm, but we work with farm. Farm is everywhere, right? When I was talking about that farm level as it is in that approach of the agroecology framework. It's more like what like the technical part of it, the production side of it. But with farm, it's much more than that, right? Farm is also, we were discussing that around lunch. Farm is also market actors by themselves, right? For themselves and by themselves, right? So I've been mistakenly saying things when we say we depart from farm, but not only farm. I was not meaning farmer, right? I was meaning technical things that we need to sort out, and we still need to sort out, right? Yes, we have a lot of good practices in there, but we were discussing a lot. We need to know more about many agroforestry systems. We need to know more about many of these things here. We're going to diversify. And if we're going to diversify in many different ways, in ways that make sense, to really develop market from farmer perspective, etc. So yeah, it's many complex issues, so I cannot tackle it. But yeah, just to say, yes, agroecology is about a farmer approach, and a farmer approach not only as a production supply side, but it's also farmers are as different actors, as policy, also agents, right? So we've been talking about agency, but what does it mean, agency? How do we make it happen, right? So I think that's also about that, right? And so the agency is not only about farmer in its capacity as a producer, it's also the other thing. So for that, you really need to connect these dots about the policy change making process, the market change processes, right? And making sure that you have all of the people and you don't disconnect again. So I'm very happy to catch up with value chains, but the concern with the value chain thinking is that many times you consider farmer as suppliers. That's not enough. And then you want them to get this next step in getting things right for market actors. No, they are market actors. They can also make their own market decision on that. It can be value chain, right? But we need to say, what are we meaning with value chains, right? As a social scientist, we don't say value chain anymore because it was one of the traps. That's why we say market again, because we've been developing in social science perspective, social construction of markets. But that's something not well known, right? So, and that's something that needs to be very much anchored into the farming practices. So that was talking about market practices, it's farmer practices, and local collectors, and all of the people around. So, sorry.
That was clear. Yeah, Oliver, I like your 3 points. I think they're very concrete. The middle class developing, how does that cope with value chains? New forms of value chains, as farmers, not only suppliers, but true actors. And then the other side is this middle class. You said markets as a social buildup. Then how does this sort of middle class come into play through expressing maybe needs or preferences? Was it maybe Mr. Chen yesterday mentioned the price tag as a something that was triggering more consumption here in Hanoi in his shops. What does it mean? I would say this is the middle class in Vietnam expressing a choice. How do we compose of this? The territorial approach is also maybe something to place concrete elements to bring people together. Territory can be a city and a rural area. How does that link? Is that a value chain?
Oh, thanks very much. This is innovation in the process. This is really what is happening is an innovation, and we probably need to remind ourselves what is the best and highest role of whatever resources is available, 18 million. What is the best and highest role of the configuration of actors that are here? What is the best and highest role of the various innovation niches that are coming out of the DESIRA project? And innovation is just like movement building, right? We can only move in the speed of trust. And it's really important that to make sure that there is an element and a venue for transparency and clarity in terms of process, because we don't know what innovation this process will lead us. And speaking of process, I think before we end today's session, it would be interesting to have a sense of where are we going? What are the milestones in terms of the deadlines? What is the mechanism? What are the process? What is expected for each of those who are present here? We may not have the answers by the end of the day in terms of ultimately how will that cake, what are the ingredients or how you divide the pie, because it's not a question, but we have a sense of, what are the processes that we need to be mindful of, to be watch out for. So those who are involved and in this part of the conversations, when they go back to their constituencies, would have a sense of, okay, we don't have the answer right now, but these are the things that we should watch out for, and this is what we will be following. So again, I think it's important to be clear, to a certain degree of clarity in terms of, how do we navigate ourselves together in making sure that we all come up with not necessarily shared, but maybe a shareable output that is acceptable and where everybody could live with.
Thank you, Anika.
Yes, my observations are on the slides that Marco showed, because I have not worked as a project partner. It's completely maybe an outsider's view at this moment. So in the schema that came up, first thing that I noticed is that when we say need assessment, whose need is it addressing? Is it the researchers or the farmers or farmer organizations? Secondly, I disagree with that farmers cannot do research, because we have ample data about few 100,000 of such practices and innovations, which prove that farmers not only experiment or research, they also give outcomes. And most of the what is obvious is that I and you talk about it, they live it. So their future dwells much more into what goes in the land and what comes out of it, rather than us. We have access to markets. Then there is something that the scheme can also think of about adding value chain, is their focus on abundant and abundant resources. For example, yes, because this is the only place where poor people will not be excluded, because there is no competition. So something which is abundant, nobody cares, it is everywhere there. It can be, you can call it waste, but we say that in industrial ecology, nothing is waste. Waste is something for which we have still not found the use. So there are, like, I'll give you an example of corn silk. You grow a lot of corn, but do you know corn silk is so good for prostate and UTI. So it is useful for men and women. We don't make teas out of it. It's very medicinal. It is good. It is good to be used. Rice husk is the best silica source, but we don't. So there are certain things which have outflows towards the industrial side. I'm not saying that make agriculture very industrial. I'm saying if the waste or the agricultural surplus, or I'll say waste actually, can go into industries and make industries greener, that is one thing that can be also thought about. And then also abandoned resources, something which just goes off. So that is another thing that can be done. Another observation was, what about the knowledge that you generate during the process? Who owns it? Because it is shared between the farmer organizations, even DESIRA, EU, and whoever is the agricort, whoever is coming along. How do you demarcate or define this scope? Because sooner or later it will come up. Who owns this knowledge? Sometimes, like it is like many of our cell phones, we have to pay to access our own data. So it should not happen. So how do we make sure that the farmers whose data is there, that is they are available to them also? Then of course it is also, agroecology also means the farmer varieties, the diversity, and also creating markets for diversity. Now problem is, like, we have tomatoes, and tomatoes were bred for the oval shape came out because they were good to be transported like that. Now that has to change. Before that, we had so many different kinds of all different sizes of tomatoes, and nobody cared how they are, because problem is we always think that whenever something has to be packaged, it has to be packaged for thousands of miles, while the market may be within 100 kilometers of the area. So with market, we also think about sustainable packaging, and because yesterday the entrepreneur was also saying about branding. So packaging is a very important aspect of branding. And then the last would be that the problem is right now what I see the scheme as is helping researchers who are working in agroecology do something better, and then scaling up so that farmers adopt it. But what I will see, I like to see it in future, will be being a platform to connect the indigenous knowledge systems and the modern knowledge systems, where there is a win-win between two, because otherwise, if farmers do not own, they will not follow. As soon as you take away the money from them, it will be gone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pierre. Small contribution. It's going to be a succulent pie because there are so many ingredients.
No, actually, it's to DESIRA. I mean, so it's not directly related to what we have been talking, but listening to the contribution from our colleague from Farah, and looking at how what was presented is organized. What I'm missing is how we encourage exchange between the different regions. Especially, I mean, reflecting on the panel we had yesterday on a higher education institution, for instance, we saw that there is a huge potential to work on curriculum in the region, but also to exchange with curriculum being developed in other regions. And also looking at what has been developed in this region, especially the ASEAN policy guideline on agroecology. I mean, so some sort of policy innovation, how this can be shared with other regions. And on the other side, I mean, in the other way, in Africa, for instance, a lot of countries are developing national strategy on agroecology, which is not regional, but more at country level. Or even if you take the case of Kenya, even a district or province have developed their own strategy. So how this is implemented, developed, implemented, budgeted, and what can we learn from the different regions? And what I'm missing is how this upcoming program can support this kind of exchange across the different regions to connect the dots. And I think there was a pledge also this morning for having this this hub or this platform to connect the actors across the different continents.
Okay, yeah. Overall coordination. Agriculture is devolved in Kenya, and that's why the countries are having their own policy. But that links back to the territorial approach, maybe.
Very quickly, I was just while the other intervention, how can this be sustainable, and how can because what I see is that the producer organizations or the beneficiaries, let's say, will do the things a bit and like precisely how you interpret it, and then it's kind of goes back to business as usual. But I have to say something about embedding, because this is how I see it so far is not embedded. It's like a side boat that will sail for 5 years. I don't know how many years of the project. And then they will need to look for a new project. A new project may not have continuity of that. So this side boat might sink eventually. But EU also support the agri-food system assessments in many countries, like 60 some countries or something. And many of these countries now working very hard to develop their national food system transformation action plan. Isn't this a wonderful opportunity to embed this project, this activity, strengthening the role of producer organizations, strengthening co-creation, co-research process, whatever that might be, in the national action plan. So it becomes a part of bigger agenda, part of long-term vision of countries that might be engaged. And the last point is linking with the food system transformation action plan. if you want agroecology to be successful, I think Katja said, what is farmers interested? They want to make profit. They don't want to do something for a little while for common good and environment. All very sounds nice, but they have to live too. Their children has to be fed and go to school and have a good health. And so how can we make farmers who are willing to and interested in agricultural approaches make profit? Is only through market. How can we create market? Only when there is enough consumers. And how can we create enough consumers? And just farmers labeling something agricultural is not going to create. We have to work with consumers. And is this envisioned in the project? Where is the, are we going to work with consumer networks or something? How can we create better market working with consumers to create better demand? I just wanted to make this connection with the food system transformation action plan, which is very important action, which you also contributed. Why not build onto it?
Thank you very much, Nikki. Mahmoud, nice story from Pakistan.
Just what Ms. Anamika was saying. So she was referring to giving the farmers and accepting the role of in research. So that is definitely acceptable, but under this condition, as in our experience, that many a times the farmers are not fully aware of the research methodologies and the way the research is accepted and the results should be quoted. So in 2 instances, for example, the farmers actually posted their results at a national level. So we were assigned that this farmer has produced 19 months of wheat out of 1 acre. Why you people are not doing that out of a certain technology? And when we tried to do that, and when we asked him, then we came to know that he had adopted some certain methodologies, and there was a lot of labor involved that actually on the final day was not economically beneficial. So once again, if we are putting that somewhere, that farmers' role of research should be accepted, it must also be, we must be aware of it, that those research methodologies must also be acknowledged, and farmers should know, and they should quote what methodologies they're using. Thank you.
Okay, so that raises the point of what is it we call research actually. Okay, I don't know if you've heard everybody's voice. I think we can go on for many hours. We've been on for 3 days, in which much of what has been said now was already said. I'm sensing that it's going to be important to sort of synthesize much of what has been said here and what has been said in the days before, which is not redundant, but it's incrementing. So maybe it's part of our role to bring that together. I think the main actors that were called here, Agricor, Lapari, Apiras, AFA, maybe research organizations, we need to come together and make the synthesis of how do we, because I'm hearing innovative value chains taking into considerations parameters that are out of the usual business. So it certainly has to do with farmers doing things that are profitable, but maybe in a different way. You mentioned they need to have income to bring to send their children to school, but they also need to operate in a healthy environment and not kill them with improper food. So and how to feed the children in the cities properly. Also, this middle class which is developing. So I think all this is very much intricated, and it's about finding the right balance with all the ingredients. Maybe some of the ingredients are the main ingredients, and some others are spices. Maybe there's also a way in the recipe of doing this pie or this cake or whatever it is. But I'm sensing this is what there is now. I've heard many things, maybe too many. Eventually, what we've been hearing is that you said it, Peggy. Yeah, there was 350 millions, and some of the results of that have to fit into 18 millions or 40 millions. So eventually, I'm not saying it's a shrinking process, but it certainly is a condensation process of the quintessence of what is essential, and that has to be versed into this new project. And that would be a sort of scaling in a way.
Yeah.
A distillation of scaling.
Yeah.
Distillated scaling. I think I would want to hear from Marco what he thinks of all these proposals and whether he's still there or he's fainted behind his desk.
That will be conveying to them. I mean,
Should be conveyed to them.
Will be taken into account during the design process. And I think also, I mean, the representative of research, extension, farmer organizations who have been here taking part in the discussion should also feel invited to share and to take further the comments that have been shared today. And we will be doing so because we are also part of the design process. We are going to comment on the document that has been presented. So of course, we will feed our comments by all what we have heard during the 3 days and 2 days. So, just to terminate, I was a little bit quick to get rid of the burden when I told you that further support to the ASEAN guidelines should be dealt with by the EU delegation in the countries. But I think that if there is something that can be contributed by the FOs through the process to make it better and that can be taken on board under the component 2 on policy engagement and so on. I think that there should be a discussion between you to try to figure out how this can be done. Because opportunities to support processes are not so many, so they shouldn't be missed. And once again, this is one initiative. It is not big, it is not small, but there will be synergies made, identified and made. Marco spoke about coordinating with the IFAD investments. We are also going to try to to connect better with our delegations so that they can also take on board some of the elements that will be dealt with under the program, or to take on board some activities, components that will not be able to be part of the program. So this is I think that the very important thing is that there is a dynamic. There was DESIRA. This project is going to start. This is a way to keep things moving and going on. And it's not perfect. It's not going to be to address all the issues, but it's part of making sure that the dynamic is going on.
Thank you very much, Marion. So let's gather things and send them to you and Marco, maybe.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Just one small thing. I looked up the other day because you mentioned the Global Gateway, and I thought, okay, Global Gateway, how does it apply here in the region? So I looked up the Global Gateway, Google Global Gateway ASEAN, and so there's a series of things, but in the Global Gateway, there's a Team Europe approach. You confirm this? And in this Team Europe approach, I've read that France, for instance, has raised their hands to support agroecology and the agroecological transition. Italy has been raising their hands to do something else, I can't remember right now, on agriculture. We had the agricultural attaché with us for 2 days. There was somebody from AIX, the Italian cooperation agency, yesterday. So I think the Team Europe approach is going to be also part of the game now. You mentioned, Aurélie, the blended funding. So did you, Murana, in this long trajectory of 20 years for the cotton industry in Burkina Faso. I think focusing here is one thing on this project with IFAD. But all these same ingredients of the pie, maybe they don't all fit in this mold here, but other players are going to be supportive of that. So, this is one point or one element of the bigger picture.
Marco is still here?
Yeah.
Marco is not
He's
here
connected,
anymore.
but he doesn't reply to our messages. So I don't know.
Not connected anymore.
It's not connected anymore. Okay.
But-
Should we leave it here?
Yeah.
Katja is encouraging to leave it here. Okay, thank you very much. I hope this doesn't frustrate. I wouldn't want anybody to go out of this room frustrated. No, seriously. And it's not for me to, make anything smoother or, but I would rather see an encouraging process of coming together rather than dispersing forces. Thank you very much.
Okay, so
Thank you for all your contribution to this contribution this afternoon, which was a sort of tightrope exercise. You did well, nobody fell. So we're very happy with this. And we want to exit this meeting with somebody hurt. Thank you very much, and see you soon.